Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopinjana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopinjana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Anandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Rana Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Gopinjana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopinjana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Rana Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rana Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Radha Madhava ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Vasudevaya. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai, Shri Gaur. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 44. Upagemano lalitam Tatra tatra chakayakai Kridam parvivritastibir Radinim avishachachau Upagaimano lalitam Tatra tatra chagayakai Kridam parvivritastibir Radinim avishachachau Upagaimano lalitam Tatra tatra chagayakai Kridan parvivritastibir Radinim avishachachau Upagaimano lalitam Tatra tatra chagayakai Kridan parvivritastibir Radinim avishachachau. Upagaimano lalitam Tatra tatra chagayakai Kridam parvivritastibir Radinim avishachachau. Upagaimano lalitam Tatra tatra chagayakai Ritam Pariridastribir Radini Nadishachita. Translation, word to word. Upagaimana, being sung about. Lalitam, very nicely. Tatra tatra, here and there. Cha, also. Gayakai, by the singers. Kridan, playing. Parvita, surrounded. Stribi, by woman. Radinim, in the water of the river. Avishad, enter. Shuchao, when it was too hot. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Many professional singers used to sing about the glories of King Puranjana and his glorious activities. When it was too hot in the summer, he used to enter a reservoir of water. He would surround himself with many women and enjoy their company. Purport. A living being has different activities in different stages of life. One stage is called Jagrata, or the life of awakening, and another is called Swapna, or the life of dream. Another stage is called Sushupti, or life in an unconscious state, and still another stage occurs after death. In the previous verse, the life of awakening was described. That is, the man and the woman were married and enjoyed life for 100 years. In this verse, life in the dream state is described, for the activities Puranjana accomplished during the day were also reflected at night in the dream state. Puranjana used to live with his wife for sense enjoyment, and at night this very sense enjoyment was appreciated in different ways. A man sleeps very soundly when he is greatly fatigued, and when a rich man is greatly fatigued, he goes to his garden house with many female friends, and there enters the water and enjoys their company. Such is the tendency of the living entity. Within this material world, a living entity is never satisfied with a woman unless he is trained in the system of brahmachari. Generally, a man's tendency is to enjoy many women, and even at the very end of life, the sex impulse is so strong that even though one is very old, he still wants to enjoy the company of young girls. Thus, because of the strong sex impulse, the living entity becomes more and more involved in this material world. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. As many of you know, it's my first Bhagavatam class, and I seek for your blessings and encouragement. I'm quite nervous, but I hope that it goes well, and I try my best. Hopefully it's a new beginning, for a successful beginning for something new in my life as Bhagavatam classes. So before this happened, actually how it happened, all it's Damodar Prasad Prabhu, he came to me and he asked me to give the class, and I was quite unsure about it, but then I thought, okay, it's time. So here we are, and before I start something new, I usually seek for blessings, and that's what I did also with my spiritual master. So I sent him a message mentioning that I'm gonna give my first Bhagavatam class, and his response was, that's nice that you are going to give the class. It's an easy verse to give a class on. That's not what I thought. But then he said, talk about brahmachari training and how when one is trained in the austerity and focused on the goal of life, one automatically is not interested in gross material enjoyment and can actually be a good grihasta fulfilling the purpose of life. And then with Gurudev's blessings, this will be the topic I will try to talk on. Of course, many of us, we heard the story about King Akbar, or Emperor Akbar actually, and then as Prabhupada mentions in the end of his purport here, and he also told us the story. So Emperor Akbar, he was asking from his servant, or he was wondering how long sex inclination lasts, how long does desire exist in the life of the person. And then this servant, or minister, actually it was a minister, minister's answer was that it lasts until the end of life. So Akbar, he was really surprised, like, how is that possible? How is that it's so strong? And then minister said that, well, I can prove that to you. So after a while, then they went to the dying man, and then they and minister told to Akbar that he should take his young daughter with him to see this dying man, and on his deathbed. So even though this dying man, he was falling apart, his body was not in a good shape anymore, and his consciousness as well, but still all what he was doing, like when they came to visit him, Minister Akbar and Akbar's daughter, this dying man, he was actually looking at the young lady. And then Akbar, he understood right away that this is how it is, that even though the body can be really old, it doesn't really matter anymore, but still the sex desire is still there. So this was the proof to Akbar of minister words. Of course, it doesn't really have to be the case, and we are here, or we are taking this path of Krishna consciousness in order to change that, or to not to have this desires anymore. And because if we will not change it, then it will continue until we will take a new birth, a new body, and it will be going on and on and on again. And this is not what we want in our life. We can reach the state where we don't really have to be attracted to the opposite sex. We can be elevated to different states, and Srila Prabhupada gave us the path which, if we follow, we will reach that goal. And Srila Prabhupada, in one of his morning walks in Juhu, he asked his disciples, and he asked this question: why do you think you are attracted to the opposite sex? And then disciples, they gave different kind of answers, but then Srila Prabhupada, but nothing matched exactly what Srila Prabhupada meant. And then Srila Prabhupada answered himself to this question, and then he said that you're attracted because you want to be attracted. So the desire is still there, but our goal is to change this desire, and in order to do that, we have to cultivate the Krishna conscious desires, which are serving devotees, serving Krishna, serving the world. And as many of you heard recently, my dear Shiksha Guru, His Holiness Kadambaka Maharaj, he left this world, and before he left, he was writing a book. And then the book was printed as soon as he left. And now I have the book here, because Lucas Prabhu, he brought it from India. Soon we all will get a copy. But the name of the book is Forever Present, and I would like to read few pages from here. The book is it is all about his these are basically the instructions for, of course, mainly first of all his disciples in different ways, but as well, not just for them, but for everyone whoever wants to take up this Krishna consciousness seriously. So here he has really, like, just for a few pages, many instructions, and I would like to read few which are struck to me the most, or at least at the moment, or I thought it would be relevant, because my goal is now to talk about service and our attitude towards service. And one of the things which Maharaj wrote was, take charge of your spiritual life! Exclamation mark. Maharaj was really strong and lively. So I can even see him, or when I read this, I was imagining in my mind, sort of like, oh, this I can see, I can clearly see what kind of expressions he would make while he was writing this, or if he would say it out loud. So here Maharaj says, I want you to take charge of your own spiritual life. I want you not to go on automatic pilot, but to say, I'm going to shape my spiritual life, and I need support, I need association, and I need so many things. The first principle is that you take charge, you make something of your spiritual life. It is not like, oh, it's happening or it's not happening, you make it happen. Okay, it might not be possible to become a Paramahamsa just because we try to make it happen, or you may not immediately get $100 million and build a temple to please your spiritual master. But take your life in your hands and make something of it. That is what I really want. I think that it is a point of breaking through in spiritual life, and it's required. So we can see right away, just from this small purport of Maharaj, that his mood is very much shown, that he wanted us to be as strong as possible and do whatever it takes for Krishna consciousness. So Maharaj continues, what I want from you is that you have a vision. It is my duty to be a visionary, and that I would like is that you have a vision in life. That means that you look at your whole life, not just living and surviving from day to day. I would like to see that you think about where you're going, and it better be to the spiritual world. And who are you taking with you? We need to reflect and be thoughtful. For example, here we have taken a birth in particular situation. What did we do in our last life that brought us to where we are now? I've been thinking about where I come from, about what to do, what is important, all these questions. You should not only ask these questions, but also answer them. We need to come to the point of making conscious choices to create a life more favorable for Krishna consciousness. We accept that is favorable and reject what is unfavorable. I am looking for authenticity. I don't look for good club members who are nicely acting out the role that they understand the devotee should have. No, I am looking for people who are saying, let's do something to live the way Krishna and Srila Prabhupada want. Let us do something to give Krishna consciousness to others. I think it's extremely boring if someone is just chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulative principles, and that's their spiritual life. And for the rest, just working in a job, I would say that it's the most boring devotional life you could have possibly chosen. There are so many options, exciting, dangerous, a huge menu of choice, and you choose the category boring. I hope my disciples not going to live a boring life in Krishna consciousness. We all have different nature. Some like to study, some like to chant, some are very passionate and like to do things. Whatever it is, engage it, but in a way that we develop compassion. The Acharyas give us many tools. In the Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives us tools of introspection. Introspection is something that is important. Every once in a while, one has to take an inventory. What I'm doing? Where do I stand? Am I making any advancement? Or I'm being ruled by my anarthas? And what are we? And what are my anarthas actually are? It is very helpful to look at Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's list to get a better grip. In Madhurya Kadambini, he really gets into it. It is an interesting book. We get detailed insight into the stages of bhakti from Shraddha to Prema and what needs to be overcome on the way. Madhurya Kadambini is a small book, a quick read, but it is very useful and should be studied. So this was the first excerpt of the book I wanted to read, and so we can reflect, or we can see how Maharaj was so innovative, I would say, or in the way how he speaks. He is really determined to encourage us to do something according our nature, do something what we are able to do easily, what is also practical for us. And I also would that encourages me and inspires me a lot, and I also want maybe everyone else to think of what he said and reflect on your life and see, are you sincere in your devotional service? Are you doing that just automatically? Or you're really doing that in order to please Krishna, or in order to do something what will make Krishna's representatives happy. And I would really, I would like to encourage you to really think about it a bit more and see, like, your day-to-day life, like what did I do you can ask yourself, what did I do today to please Krishna? Or what was my attitude? How did I do this service? Was it nicely? Was I doing that just in order to finish it as soon as possible? Or I did it with the thought that, okay, I'm doing something seriously for Krishna, and then because living in a temple, in the ashram, it gets mundane. Like, we are getting accustomed to what is happening to our surroundings. We don't with some time, I'm saying that because I can see it by myself, that after some time I forget where I am, what is happening, and then the tendency is there to not realize that actually you're in the house of God, and all what you are supposed to do in this house is to serve Krishna and to please Him in many different ways, and the opportunity is given to you. You're supposed to do the service. Like, we are all assigned some certain services. They're all different, or some of us we have similar services, but still our sincerity might be different in the way how we are doing that. So then I would like to read the other part of the book, which is called Absorption in Devotional Service. I really need help of my guru and my Shiksha guru in order to give a class, so therefore I would rather like really follow what read their words or something what I know is correct. So therefore I am trying to use some help of them. And then in this chapter, Maharaj is saying, "O Krishna, how can we live without devotional service? Oh, you are the most noble personality. You are the well-wisher of all living beings. I, as your servant, will also be the well-wisher of all. I'm not good at meditation, I'm not good at sitting and remembering, but I have been able to do service. Now, because of this service, I can't forget you for a moment. I'm challenged, as death is approaching me. I will lose my strength. I will be more and more distracted by pain. Then, taking shelter of you becomes more desperate. Absorption comes in many moods and moments, but I will turn you in any case. I will turn to you in any case. It is the constitutional position of the living entity to be a servant of Krishna. Service is our natural position. If we are not serving Krishna, then we are serving others, family, profession, society at large, animals, plants, and so on, because serving is our nature. Transcendental knowledge means that we understand who Krishna is, that we understand who we are, and that we understand that the relationship between Krishna and ourselves is the one of ever-growing love in devotional service. The Nectar of Devotion mentions the stages of bhava. When the seed of ecstatic emotion for Krishna fructifies, the following 9 symptoms manifest in one's behavior: forgiveness, concern that time should not be wasted; detachment, absence of false prestige; hope, eagerness, a taste for chanting the holy name of the Lord; attachment to the descriptions of the transcendental qualities of the Lord; and affection for those places where the Lord resides, that is, a temple or a holy place like Vrindavan. These are all called anubhav, subordinate signs of ecstatic emotion. They are visible in a person in whose heart the seed of love of God has begun to fructify." Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 3:20 verses from 25 to 26. This was the translation. Real absorption means that we always think of Krishna spontaneously with deep feeling. That happens at an advanced stage of spiritual life. At present, we cannot be absorbed like that, but we can be absorbed in sadhana, in cultivation of Krishna consciousness. In the 9-fold processes of devotional service, the first process is Shravanam, or hearing. And then we carry on to the Kirtanam, chanting, and then Smaranam, remembering. From there we go to Padasevanam, to serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And to do that, one may take up Archanam, or deity worship. Part of Archanam is Vandanam, offering prayers. In general, there is Dasyam, or servitorship, and one realizes Sakhyam, friendship. Finally, we arrive at Atmanivedanam, surrendering mind, body, and soul. Devotional service is anukulyasya. It is favorably disposed towards the Lord. It is sukyam. We are friendly towards the Lord, and the Lord is friendly to us. So in the 9 processes of devotional service, there is a progression. From Shravanam, all others develop. Of course, devotional service can begin from any of the 9, but by hearing we are nourishing our chanting, and by hearing and chanting we naturally nourish remembrance, and so on. This is our objective. We desire to hear about Krishna, and we wish to carry on our devotional service. It should be remembered that devotional service is never a mechanical process, where one does so many rounds or performs a certain number of parikrams and, well, at the end of life we have a little notebook which we pull out at the gate of the spiritual world like a passport, and here we go. Here, I completed 27 full Govardhan parikrams, right? 3 Raj Mandal, a couple of Navadvip Mandal, so many Sunday feasts, Ekadashis and fastings on Janmashtami. I didn't have the highest score in these things. I simply took care of my service. And once I became a sannyasi, that service became the preaching mission. This has been the best service of all, the most rewarding one. Of course, when looking at our service, the Lord really looks at the heart and is pleased when he sees the devotee is making sacrifice. He's really going out of his way for the pleasure of the Lord. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 4, the internal mood of the Lord and the mood of the gopis is described. It is said that pure love is such that even when there are so many good reasons to give it up, one still doesn't give it up. That's pure love. Many obeisances to the gopis' lotus feet. Let us pray to be able to someday adopt the mood in our devotional service. So I found it very inspiring what Maharaj says, and then once again he's just encouraging us to be as sincere as possible, to be independently thoughtful in our devotional service, and to take it up as serious as we can. Like, you can do it in one way, but do it a little bit hard. Try to push yourself a little bit more than you usually would do. Try to do a little more than what you every day try to encourage yourself by associating with proper devotees with the same mood, service attitude, like Maharaj. So find someone who inspires you, or who is there to cultivate this desire to do devotional service more and more. Because if we don't do that, then we're gonna be here again. We're gonna be in this material world. So, as my spiritual master, His Holiness Birkrishna Goswami, he mentioned to me that I should talk about proper brahmacharya ashram training. And what does it mean, brahmacharya ashram training? Actually, it doesn't really refer to the male or female, as what we can learn from that is that one just has to Jai Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai. So what he really what does it mean, brahmacharya ashram training? As far as I can see it, or as far as I understand it, it means that we just should try to live a regulative life and try to be as real and sincere as possible in what we are doing, and also try to cultivate this desire of serving, of preaching. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted us to do, is to spread the holy names of the Lord everywhere. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we just have to follow his footsteps. So in order to do that, we should take up appropriate association. We should try to attend. Well, what is very important is to be sincere in front of yourself, in front of Krishna, and in front of others, and try to chant your rounds as best as you can. I know it's not always easy. I myself struggle a lot, but still, always try to push yourself. Not too much. Not just that you would give it up, but still try to, polish this as much as you can. And then, of course, a big part of our lives and lives of devotees is service. And then, once again, I will repeat myself that if you are doing some certain service, just try to do it not on an automatic pilot, but try to put yourself or your heart into it, as like Krishna would be right there, standing and looking at you. What if Krishna is right there and then he will see everything, whatever you do, and like he just not just see, he also can read your mind. He can also understand what are on your thoughts, what are you thinking about, what are your dreams, or like maybe you're there like cutting the vegetables, but actually thinking, I'm gonna enjoy this sabji afterwards, or something like that. But no, actually, what we are supposed to do or try to do is to meditate on Krishna all the time. And this opportunity for us, we live in a ashram, in a temple, in full-time or part-time, or we practice Krishna consciousness at home. Still, Krishna, our spiritual masters, and all the Goswamis, they gave us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone, they gave us the opportunity to be sincere and to try to do something, to make changes in our lives, and to really understand what is the most important part, or what is the most important thing in our lives, which is service to Krishna in order to please him. There is one last chapter I would like to read, which is named Empowering Others Through Service. So Maharaj really has amazing, like they're very short but like straight to the point chapters in this book, which are just like you can just randomly open anything and then you will feel, for example me, I feel so inspired, and so like, this was actually what I needed in my life. No. So true empowerment means that we are able to connect with the Supreme Lord. So a devotee can empower others simply by engaging them in devotional service and creating the connection with the Supreme Lord. As people engage in the service, they gain confidence and start to develop a taste for the service. Jayananda, Prabhupada's disciple, would single-handedly organize a whole Rath Yatra from scratch. He would collect the money, buy the building materials, and build the cart. As he was building the cart, he was the engineer, he would ask for help. A boy would be passing on the street, and he would say, excuse me, could you give me a favor? Could you hold this one plank? And boy says, yeah, sure. Jayananda would give him a hammer and nails and say, would you be able to just put those nails in there? And he says, yeah, no problem. Jayananda would respond, wow, you're an expert. Are you a carpenter? And the next moment, the boy is helping him build a cart. By service, a person becomes receptive. By service, someone changes. Empowerment means that even when we can do something, we don't. We'll let others do it, with some support and help if needed, so that while doing it, they grow and become powerful. And what do? We try and do bigger service, because each service is a preparation for the next. The whole Sankirtan movement is based on this principle of empowerment. Srila Prabhupada said that in the material world you must have the qualification before getting a job. But in spiritual life, first you get in a position and then the qualification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants us to distribute the fruits of devotional service. And it is said that by distributing the fruit you have, you will gain more than you had before. In time, our service matures within us. It is not only that we get eternal spiritual benefit from devotional service, but that service grows in our hearts. First, there is an attachment to the service, and later, attachment to Krishna. Attachment to service leads to attachment to Krishna. The Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the pastimes of Nakula Brahmachari, who became empowered. Lord Chaitanya worked through Nakula Brahmachari, and Nakula Brahmachari became just as powerful, experiencing the same ecstasy of love of God. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya commentary on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that the real empowerment means empowerment with the Chit potency and the Ananda potency, or the knowledge potency and the happiness potency. When we are making contribution to Krishna in devotional service, we become empowered, and this makes it possible to do seemingly impossible things, and we start to empower others by connecting them with devotional service. So, yeah, Maharaj is very expert in words, and I feel really grateful that for having his association, and he was always like this. He would always say that he was always in the same mood. We have to do something for Krishna. We have to push ourselves. We have to go a little bit further than what you usually do each time. And that's what inspires me, and I'm really happy that there are people like that in our lives who can encourage us and or who left a big legacy after them and will still inspire us even though they might not be physically present with us anymore. So I guess I would end here. If there are any questions and comments, please don't be harsh on me. Be soft, and maybe I would prefer comments if there are any, or we can try to have some discussion if anyone has something to say. Or even if not, it's also okay. Oh no! Okay, Yamuna Kelly Mataji has a question. Okay, I will repeat for the viewers. Oh, here we are. Thanks.
Thank you very much for such a nice lection with such an inspiring mood. And you say, not you, you are reading that from Kanambakana Maharaj, that for the good service in a right mood, we need to find somebody who will inspire us. So it must it be our Diksha Guru or not? Please explain it.
As far as I can see it, or for example for me, or what I would take from my Diksha Guru is that the eternal inspiration for everyone is Srila Prabhupada. Like, look what he did in his old age, and despite all the difficulties, whatever was on his way, he brought us all together. We're all here, well, basically just because of this one old man. And of course, I would say that he could be inspiration for all, because I don't know personally anyone stronger or more empowered than him. But otherwise, yeah, you know the answer probably much better. You've been around longer, but so far what I can see from and say from my experience, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a Diksha or Shiksha Guru. It just has to be someone who is whom we find inspiring, or who is like, there might be even just our friend, or like even just a younger devotee, or even a child. You know, I'm more often inspired by the kids which we have in Krishna consciousness. They will be like, even my nephew, he's just 2-year-old boy who is coming to the temple, and the first thing what he will do, he will raise his hands and he will pay obeisances. So I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by his parents who taught him this. I'm inspired how sincerely he does that. Or when you say Jai, he will raise his hands right away and be very happy. And so inspiration can be found in many different places, or words, or books, or people. But I believe, yeah, we can find it not necessarily. But of course, we should have a proper person in our lives who would give us instructions, who would encourage us, or who would take care of us, like a mentor. And it can be Diksha or Shiksha Guru, or a mentor who is, or a temple president who is actually representative of Krishna for us. And but I can see that anyone could be inspiring, and I hope that it answers the question. It's okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I guess if there is no any other questions, Kan Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, His Holiness Kadamakanana Swami ki. But I can do more. No, but of course. Ой, да какой подвиг.
Отлично у вас получается.
Спасибо большое.
Отлично благословение. сопутствуют вашему пути.
Спасибо. I'm so happy I had the book.
Are you sure that he took only one book?
Yes, but because this book was given to me by one of the disciples, just sent it to me. It's not the book as well, by his wish. Yeah, of course, they sent it.
Sorry, I was hearing his words again.
No, yeah, I could feel him.